Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Round 6 review podcast brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, Twitter account and YouTube channel bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcasting app so we drop into your phone every week or even every night. And please leave us a 5-star review. Other stars are available, but why would you want to? If you'd like to watch what happens behind the covers, then the show is live on YouTube at 8 p.m. New Zealand time every Monday. And obviously the recording stays there on YouTube as well. Joining me this week, I have Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Paul. How are you? Good to be back.
Not bad at all. It's good to have you back. And yeah, it's been a week or two. And for those of you who are watching the show, don't get confused by Shane's attire. He is from Brisbane. And so yeah, he's trying to hide the fact by wearing a Hurricanes cap this evening. Obviously, because
actually from northern New South Wales, Paul, but a Reds fan.
Oh, sorry. Oh, dear me. I'm in trouble now. Right. It's all in that kind of area. I think vaguely. Is it elsewhere? That's Queensland, isn't it? Brisbane. Yeah. Oh, you
about 500 k's from Queensland.
So you should be Waratahs then, because Waratahs is New South Wales, right?
I think there's a line there, Paul. I think there's a distinct line there.
That line comes further down New South Wales. Okay.
Yes.
I've got a dear me, my Australian geography I need to brush up on. But before that, obviously, let's get through the games from this weekend. And actually, before we go to that, how were your predictions last weekend?
I think I got the Crusaders, which I was quite happy with. Yep. I was happy enough with the Rebels. I didn't get my beloved Reds, obviously, though they put in a really good effort. I didn't see the Jaguares beating the Lions, so I think it'll be a mixed round, but I did get the Chiefs. So you were 4 out of 6, were you then, by the sounds of things? What was the other game again, Paul?
And the Hurricanes Highlanders.
I think, well, obviously I'd go for the Highlanders there, and I've lost a bit. I'm wearing a Hurricanes hat.
Well, yeah, I'm only doing that because I got 6 from 6 this weekend on my predictions, so I'm in bragging mode this weekend because I got 6 from 6 in Super Rugby, 6 from 6 in Super Rugby, 6 from 6 in the Rugby Premiership, 5 from 7 in the Pro 14, and 6 from 7 in the Top 14. So I had a good picking weekend this weekend. But anyway, into the games themselves. First up, the Crusaders versus the Bulls. The Crusaders won this one 33-14. It looked like a bit of a wet game out there over down in Christchurch.
Yeah, well, when you're playing in those sort of conditions, you favour the Crusaders, and I think that it wasn't certainly the most convincing game that I've watched or the most convincing Crusaders game that I've seen them win, but they did enough over the 80 minutes, and you could tell that the Bulls probably weren't prepared to play under those sort of conditions where they're probably not used to it, the dry track in Pretoria. So it was not, as I said, the greatest game, but there was certainly some good snippets in there by both sides, and the Bulls put in a better effort compared to the effort they put in last week too.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast actually last weekend with an interview with a player who used to play for the Chiefs and is back in the UK now. And he said one of the things they would do for training is they would soak the balls in washing up liquid before training. And that's how they basically get ready for these kind of conditions. Because one of the comments that you hear quite often in Europe is, or in the UK, is that the reason that the handling's better down south is because of the conditions. And let's first, I live in New Zealand, it's wet over here. So it's not that at all. It's because they soak the balls in washing up liquid before practice. And that's how they can handle it in those conditions. Yeah, it's one of those ones where the Crusaders were put under pressure early on, infringed quite a bit, got themselves a yellow card for constant infringements, but followed that up with a line-out maul try, and as you say, yeah, used their forward pack to great power in that first half. Jack Goodhue, wow, he's a guy that's coming on leaps and bounds this season, and powered himself over, and with the Bulls down 21-7 at half time, coming back against the Crusaders, I don't think that was ever really going to happen, was it?
No, and you can tell the difference, I think, between the Bulls and the Crusaders, and I point this out often in my Twitter posts, that New Zealand sides and the Crusaders weren't playing at their most, the full strength side. They had a few injuries, but their confidence and depth, particularly in the young fellas that they're putting out in the park, is getting the results because they're all trained the same way to get the results. And I think you'll find a lot of those Crusaders will be All Blacks in a year or two, come World Cup selection. They played very well out there.
Yeah, perhaps after World Cup. I think there'll be a couple that obviously come in before the World Cup, but I think the plan is to have players with as many players as possible with that sort of 40, 50 caps going into every World Cup. So they've got the experience. So some of them may have to wait, but yeah, I think there's a few in there. I mean, Goodhue obviously clearly is one that will probably be there sooner rather than later. And if we look at the stats, this was a good tackling game, both over 84 and 86%, which is good to see. And then if you look at the other stats, you go, actually, the Crusaders should have lost this one. The Bulls, clean breaks for, the Crusaders made 4 clean breaks to the Bulls 7. Turnovers 14 and 19. So yeah, the Bulls had a few more, but still quite a lot from the Crusaders. Crusaders got 12 penalties to the Bulls 8. So these aren't convincing stats by the Crusaders, and I guess you could see that by the fact that their 2 early tries were from line-out mauls, so you don't need a clean break for that. Goodhue powered over, and then there was a cross-field kick that got knocked down and bounced around a bit. So actually, they only had 1 clean break for all their tries.
Yeah, sorry. Where you going?
No, off you go.
No, look, and one thing, a group of us, we watched the game at the pub, and we saw that when the Bulls had the ball and they were in attack and they had some clear line, they just didn't have the right direction to where they wanted to go to get the ball over the line. Where you could see when the Crusaders had the ball, they knew exactly where their teammate was, and they knew they threw a lot of cutout balls for memory, and they always got the target. And I think, those stats were very good because it showed an indication of, okay, the Bulls made some good yards when they were making the line breaks, but it was the Crusaders who knew what to do when they had that ball in hand. And that
it's that final execution that we see from them, and also once you got a lead, it's much easier to defend. Then we had the Rebels hosting the Sharks. The Sharks survived a yellow card early on, and where I thought actually so far this season the Rebels have managed to take good advantage of yellow cards, but they failed in this one, and that was a bit of a surprise. They didn't punish the Sharks early in that first half for that yellow card. Yeah,
well, the Sharks were very brave, particularly in defence, and they did hold up the Rebels for some time, and you thought, he's probably the South African side's best chance of a really strong win against an up-and-coming Aussie side this year. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the abundance of defence that the Sharks had to do tired them out in the end, and the Rebels' backs took advantage. And when you can take advantage of gaps in the field, you're going to score points. And I think that all credit to the Rebels at the moment. They're doing some good things on the field.
Yeah, and it probably was either side of that half time where you've got they scored a try just before half time, which pulled them 2 scores clear. They added another penalty just after half time, and after that, the Sharks were having to chase the game. So, and the tackling in this game wasn't great. We both were down in the 75% mark. One of the criticisms of Super Rugby, but yeah, once they've started to chase the game, things opened up a bit, and the Rebels in the end managed 20 clean breaks, amazingly enough, to the Sharks 9. I mean, that's a that's a lot of that's a lot of running from the Rebels there.
And can I make an observation as well, Paul? The Rebels started with Billy Meeks as their inside centre, and they made a few changes from the Waratahs loss last week. That was actually the right move, because you push Hodge back into the outside centre where he's better than inside, and you have an explosive running inside centre. So that created a lot of opportunities when Meeks ran the ball, because he'd make 10 or 15 metres up the field, and then the quick forward breakdown forwards and the backs would get into position, and that helped with their scoring opportunities in the 22 zone. I thought the Rebels were magnificent when they did those sort of things.
Yeah, Genia ruled the roost yet again. And if he's given time, he's going to. I think that's the lesson learnt from playing the Rebels this season. You have to close down Genia and have people in his face as much as possible. It's interesting seeing Hodge in that outside centre position. He's the only guy who didn't really make many yards on that side. Maddox 71, Navalu 69, Meeks 65, Corabetti 99. Debrasini, who I'm not a great fan of, 46 metres even. So Hodge with 15 metres really wasn't an attacking threat. And in some ways, is he kind of just surviving on his kicking? And is that why he's actually in the side, you think, at the moment?
Look, I think Hodge is a very good back. He's a very good utility back. And I think that the experiment eventually will try to make Hodge a 10, because the Checker had played Hodge at 10 in the Japanese test last year. He played pretty well, I thought, too. I think though, as I mentioned before, Billy Meeks is the best inside centre at the club. Obviously, I think I'm not quite convinced about Debrasini either, but I think eventually, if you can put Hodge in 10 and get him going with the combination with Genia, you might have a suitable 10 down the track for the Rebels as well. So
yeah, that's interesting. We'll see how that one goes. And also the other thing was not putting Hodge at fullback, because he was not good under the high ball against Waratahs, whereas Maddox meant that was short up a little bit as well. I mean, clearly Bosch or the Sharks wingers aren't Falau either, coming in to collect the ball, so they couldn't really play that game. But that's really where the game was won and lost last time. Yep, and Sefa butchered a chance, so in theory the Rebels could have scored even more. But then again, the Sharks were had an interesting TMO call go against them for a try, but they did score 2 minutes later. So yeah, I think that all evened itself up. Then we moved on to Saturday, where the Sunwolves played the Chiefs. Sunwolves lost this one 10-61. Now, apart from DMAC kicking the ball out on at the very beginning of the game, I'm not really sure what we learned from this game, really. I mean, the Chiefs were 28 points up before the Sunwolves scored, and they were really just never in this one. Sure, they tried. They put in 411 metres running, and they made 7 clean breaks, but they let the Chiefs have 21 clean breaks, which is just criminal. And if you give that kind of space to the Chiefs, they're just going to cut you to pieces, and they did. So, yep, clearly, I'd say a pretty standard game there. I don't think we learned anything about either of the sides. But
no, if I could say so, and I did manage to watch a few highlights just before we went on air, and it seems to me that if you get DMAC into a sort of square running game, you're going to see the explosiveness come out. And I know it's only a game against the Sunwolves, and he's certainly got to prove himself against his own conference and other sides. But Chiefs fans have faith in DMAC, and I think you'll find that in a year or two he'll start to become more and more consistent, and whether it's 10 or 15 that he's suited for, he'll be right. He's a good player.
Yeah, and I think they are going to persist at 10. He's got to do it against a New Zealand side, but yeah, no, it's I think he'll be fine there. A couple of comments in the live chat. Cody reckons on the Rebels, if they beat a Kiwi side, then they're for real. Yeah, and that's true. There's that element, and also they had a good and Etienne says there would be a tough team to beat at home, and yeah, that's going to be the way they are. They are going to be a tough team to play at home. So yeah, not much to learn from the Chiefs, except perhaps, and again, another comment here that Tyler Arden had a blinder in his first game for the Chiefs. It's amazing how the New Zealand players do just come in, slot in, and have no problems at all. And talking of New Zealand sides, we then had the game the matchup of the round with the Hurricanes versus the Highlanders, and some sublime skills by the outside, by the backs of both sides, really. But Barrett's little footwork, I don't know if you caught the first try. I don't know you saw the second half, but the little footwork for the first try was something sublime. Could have easily gone the other way if he'd missed it. Then Smith was in the other side, and I think that's what an element of what this game came down to was those kind of moments where the ball could have bounced either way, but it bounced the Hurricanes' way this evening or that evening.
Yeah, and while I didn't get I'm sure the Hurricanes would have loved to have finished it off in the end and got the try bonus point, which I didn't quite get. But the Hurricanes proved a point, and they proved a point that they're here to play and they're here to challenge for the title. And I think they made a definitive statement because the Highlanders are in some good form too. And what we saw from Barrett is what we've wanted to see for a few rounds now. And I think you'll find that as time goes on during this season, the Hurricanes are going to pick up the pace even further. And you'll see the other New Zealand sides either pick up that same pace or fall with the two leading sides being the Hurricanes and the Crusaders. So all to them, I reckon. All to them. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
They played very well, and they suffocated the Highlanders as well. To be fair, I mean, they only gave the Highlanders 36% possession in the first half and 43% in the second half, and then in territory-wise, they just the Highlanders in that second half couldn't get territory. 37% in the first half and 28% in the second half. They just couldn't get out of their own half, really.
And that's credit to the Hurricanes forward pack, I think, because in the second half they just choked what was left out of the poor Highlanders, and the territorial gains, as you mentioned, Paul, were very much influential in them winning the game. They'll certainly, yeah.
Yeah, because Naholo managed to. I mean, when he got two scores in this one, and the first one he was a bit cheeky, not putting the ball down to get himself a bit closer to the post for his kicker, which is good to see. And then the other one was from a grubber from. Pardon me. So Naholo's in great form as well. But if we're talking about wingers, Lamb got two wonderful tries, and Arso with his
unbelievable.
With his arso in the air and his legs in the air, really scored a wonderful try in the corner. So three great tries from the Hurricanes wingers, two decent tries from Naholo. This was a game that the backs got to shine in after the forwards had done the hard work.
Great try by Arso. Great try. We called it at the pub. He was definitely in.
Well, he had to be in because his feet were above his legs, above his head. Sorry, he couldn't have been out. That's for certain. The only question was whether he dropped it. Really,
there's no question marks from us, Paul. It was a beautiful try, a beautiful acrobatic try.
And Cody says, Barrett had a blinder. Yep, he played very well, controlling things. It was a good clinical performance by the Canes. They needed to be. I was going to say. Those three tries out wide by the wingers could all have been could all have easily not happened, and that's then 21 points less or something on those sort of lines, and suddenly it's the Highlanders' game. And the Highlanders also early on were bashing against the Canes line, but they got intercepted, and another ball bounced. I say then a Smith ball, the chip through to that Barrett chipped up into his own hands. didn't bounce their way. So they could have got they could have got some points on the board, but after that they were chasing the game the whole time. They did get back to evens, but with Ben Lamb and Arsenal in that form, it was always going to be a long night at the office.
No, I agree, Paul.
Then talking about your Reds, so the Stormers then hosted the Reds in South Africa and beat the Reds 25-19. So they came away with the losing bonus point at least. Lance had a really big mixed game, didn't he? That kick that went straight up in the air was what was he doing? What was he even thinking at that point? I don't know.
Well, I couldn't explain it either, Paul. I think generally his kicking game's been good this year, and I thought it was reasonably good, perhaps towards the end of the game when the Reds were chasing the game. And I think, well, I'm certainly not going to make any excuses. The lads left it all on the park and got a bonus point out of it, but chasing 4 wins in a row and then going to Newlands and expecting to try and get that win was a very tough ask. And look, the Stormers, all credit to them. They got an 18-0 lead early, and trying to chase the Stormers from an 18 points down is not an easy task. And
and that's what it was. It was scoreboard pressure against this young side that really made them lose it. Because if you look at the penalty count, it was 5-11 in the end as well, which didn't help the Reds. So they were also chasing the game and also giving up penalties. That doesn't help. It keeps breaking your momentum. It keeps breaking the pressure. But they did well to get back to 18-14. I mean, it was just after half time with a charge down. So they did stay in this one for a long time. To be honest, they actually were in some ways a bit lucky to come away with the losing bonus point, because that was a great length of the field try from the back of a retreating scrum, right at the death there.
I'm excited by the bloke that scored the try, Dalgunu. He came as
good pronunciation. I'm glad you did that rather than me.
Fiji Indian myself, so I'm really proud of him. Actually, he came from football, association football over in Fiji, I think it was, and he was the under-23 goalkeeper. And he's come along and shown some class with that last try, and I think he should actually be starting. I think he's got that potential and that potential was shown at the NRC last year. Unfortunately, it was a little bit too late in the game for that, but you can see what Brad Thorne is starting to develop at the side. Younger players are getting a go. Some of the players that he needed to probably delist, like Quade Cooper and Nick Frisbee, have been shown the door, and these really exciting talents are coming through. It's a really good time to be a Reds supporter.
As Cody says, his step was filthy against Raymond Rule. It was, yes, it was fantastic. He just totally put Rule on his backside without even touching him, just with a little step. That was brilliant. You can, as you say, you can see what Brad Thorne's bringing here. They were 18-0 down away from home. The heads could easily have dropped. It could have got messy. It could have blown out. Instead, what you've seen is a Reds side that played right up until the end. They did score that one just before the hooter. They did get the kickoff. They reclaimed the ball from the kickoff, but they just lacked that bit of execution and composure to finish it. So they could have actually won this game. And to consider they could have won it from when they were 18-0 down with a very young side is impressive. As you say, he's got the right culture. You can see what he's building, and things have got to be. You've got to be very positive as a Reds supporter for the next couple of seasons. I don't think it's only this season. I think we're going to have a few more games like this, but I do think next season or the season after that we could be seeing something good out of the Reds.
I think next season, Paul. I'd be probably happy as a Reds supporter with another probably 3 wins, take it to 6 wins this year. if we can beat the Sunwolves a couple of times, and maybe a derby win here or there. So the expectations for me are...
You've got 3 wins out of 5. You've got another 11 games to go, and you're saying you'd be happy with 3 more wins? No, absolutely not. This team is better than that, as you say. They've got 2 wins over the Sunwolves to come, which they should definitely pick up, and they will pick up some other derby wins at home. Now, maybe away they're going to struggle a bit, but
fingers crossed.
They've got more than 3. They've got more than 3 wins left in them.
I'd like to say they beat the Tars. I'd like to say they beat the Tars. That'd make my season.
I think they've got every chance to beat the Tars at home, to be honest. Absolutely. I think away they'll probably struggle, but at home they should be in a good shout. I guess it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Carmichael Hunt, and whether he comes back or not. Personally, I don't think he should come anywhere near the squad. No. But apparently he is someone that generally is respected in the squad. But I personally wouldn't have him back at all.
Carmichael's a very talented player, and a Wallaby, and I give him that due. And he was a Kangaroo in league as well. But with what Brad Thorne has already built, with the 3 wins and this bonus point over the Stormers, and the way the culture is going right now, keep the culture as it is. And
yeah, he doesn't need the off-field issues that Carmichael Hunt can bring. The only other point I'd like to make from this game is Khaleesi, who is a fantastic player, but he had a bit of a shocker this one. Made 4 tackles, missed 6 tackles in this game, which is very uncharacteristic of him. I don't know if he's been a bit overplayed, whether he needs a bit of rest, or whether it's just not a bad day at the office. We'll have to see. But yeah, that was a bit of a shocker from him. And they were perhaps a little bit lucky to get away with the win with some of the poor tackling. But then again, the Reds' tackling wasn't great either. But it was better than the Stormers. Final game of the weekend, one that a lot of people didn't see coming. The Jaguares beat the Lions 49-35. I had the Jaguares by 3. It ended up being by 14. So a clear victory, and yet again the Jaguares scored early, and that's the 3rd week on the trot at home where they've come out of the blocks fast and got the points. Obviously, the Reds or Rebels, gone blank now. Rebels, can't remember who played them last weekend. I've got
Reds.
Absolutely, it was the Reds.
The mighty Reds.
Dear me, the Reds obviously survived that early setback and came back. The Waratahs didn't, and neither did the Lions either. At half time, the Jaguares led by 25 points to 14, and just didn't look back.
Yeah, I didn't see much of this one. I saw a few of the highlights later on, but I've got to say the Lions are doing only half of it right. They're scoring the points on the board, but the results are starting to the wheels are starting to fall away a little bit with the Lions, and I think they're missing Ackerman as their coach, to be honest. And as I say, the attacking rugby is very good, but the Jaguares, they're your hot and cold side, and I'm glad to see that they were hot on this occasion. And
they're a confident side, and they need that early score to get them going. This time, you say it worked. The Lions did come back with line-outs and losing their maul. And they had 21 line-outs in this game, and they won every single one of them. That is some impressive set-piece work there. Actually, Etienne says that the Lions were so bad in defence. Well, to be honest with you, the stats don't say that. Stats have 83% tackle rate by the Jaguares and 82% by the Lions. That's not, for Super Rugby, that's not that bad.
Too bad.
Where they really messed up was 8 turnovers by the Jaguares, which is not unusual for them, but 17 turnovers by the Lions. They just couldn't hold on to the ball.
No, and the Lions are traditionally a phase play side, particularly in attack, and a good counter-attacking side too. So 17 handling errors is it's not a good sign for a side that I think, is starting to struggle, and I think the wheels are starting
I'll go further. 17 turnovers is abysmal. Yeah, this is where we're really going to see whether they can survive without Ackerman, because this is the what we said was coach. The coach is technically a good coach, but we always said that it was going to be the character side of things where he might struggle. And yes, having lost the Blues, having lost to the Jaguares again, this is going to be it's going to see whether they can come back from that. Sure, there were some scrappy tries that Jaguares put over. Sure, they had the luck of the bounce, but that's how many how many things they had. Cody, how many line-out breaks did the Jaguares make? Let me just quickly bring that up, and I'll let you know. Looking at the match stats, clean breaks by the Jaguares 11, clean breaks by the Lions 11, so it was even in there. So yeah, so I say there are a lot of things. Even the one that I said, the one that stood out for me, which is why I called it out, was that turnovers. 8-17 is just is crazy lopsided. And even though the Jaguares gave up 12 penalties to the Lions 6, because the Jaguares got that lead, the Lions couldn't kick those penalties for threes. They had to go for the tries, and so they couldn't keep the scoreboard ticking over. So they were chasing the game, and that scoreboard pressure has proven to be an issue in a lot of these ones. Yes, they probably do have to concentrate on their defense. I do agree, Etienne, but they need to get their handling better and not turn over those balls. Get their clean-outs working, because that really did hurt them. Cool. Shane, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, as always. Why don't you let people know where they can have a good old rugby chat with you during the week?
Yes, Paul, at Schoolermate, SCOOLM8, and have a yarn with me on Twitter, and we'll talk all things that you want to talk about.
And I'll have the Twitter link below. I've just remembered I didn't put it in the notes, but it will be in the notes down below for those of you watching on YouTube, and obviously for those of you on listening on the podcast as well. So yeah, check out the notes below. Also, I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Always up for good old rugby chat, so comments down below, please, or at DrivingMaul on Twitter. Obviously, don't forget 5-star reviews and stuff on podcasts. Always much appreciated. My face is there on the recording on YouTube, or hit the red button down there. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that little bell next to it as well. Then you'll get an update every single time I go live. And I'm going live every day of the week at the moment, so don't miss any of those. And my latest videos up there as well. Thank you so much, and enjoy whatever rugby you're watching.